All right, what is good, boys and girls? We're just about to start up the first live masterclass since starting up my school community. So we'll let all the boys in and yeah, let's run it. Yo, what is good, boys?
G'day, brother.
How you going, Dry? How are you, man?
Yeah,
Uh,
good. How are you? Yeah, I'll chuck on my camera because I'm not a pussy like you said.
I love it, bro. Love it, bro.
Here we
Yeah,
go. I'll
turn
hold
your
up.
cameras on. That'd be great.
G'day, brothers.
What is good, boys? Good to see your faces.
Yeah, good
uh,
to see you too.
Boys.
Easy as. Look, we'll jump in, but just quickly, like, how are you guys sort of finding the community? Obviously, it's a pretty common thing, like how quiet it is. People, think they're
Yeah, 100%.
people think they're by just joining it that they're doing something. So it's good to see. Obviously, Jasper and Jai inside there. You two are probably the most active, which is good. You're actually taking action on that. But how are you sort of finding everything
Yeah,
and things like that?
yeah. It's actually pretty good. I'm doing pretty well myself, honestly. I've been taking a lot of notes. I'm up to the 1 hour masterclass of where you're actually teaching appointment setting.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to wrap my head around everything, and it's actually coming together, starting to make all sense. But it's actually working well. Once we get the community a bit more active,
Yep.
it'll be a bit better. But obviously, because just started it, it's what
Yep.
happens.
Yeah, 100%, bro. And
Yeah,
obviously, the more people we get in there, the more community we build. That's a big thing as well.
yeah, but 100%, yeah, it's doing really well. I'm
Easy as.
loving it.
Easy as. So I'll share my screen here with you guys.
There we go. Yeah, I can see it.
All good?
Yeah,
All
I can see
right.
it.
Sweet, boys. So basically for this first one, obviously I've done ones in the past just before the school community, but the first one I sort of wanted to cover is obviously the first few modules inside school are very heavily on mindset and things like that. A lot of people think, it's pretty cliche and you don't need it, but looking back to when I was in your guys' shoes and to obviously get to a position where I replaced my income and then later on leave my job, it was probably one of the most important parts was instilling those mindsets, and something admittedly I've even myself have caught myself slacking on due to a few different reasons, and I sort of want to share with you guys how I'm planning to go from 20, 30, 40k a month up to 100k a month, because it doesn't just happen. So I sort of want to share for this first one my experiences, and then also because it still applies, and the same message still comes across. So with that, obviously I truly believe, as I was just saying, there's a saying in the gym, right? To get into really good physique, 90% of it is actually what you eat and what you do outside of the gym. And the 10% is actually the work you do in the gym. I fully believe, and it's happened time and time again for me, every time I've progressed from 5k a month, 10k a month, 20k a month, it has all been 90% of the stuff I actually do outside of that, outside of the actual work, outside of the skills. So obviously you guys, inside the community and on these masterclasses, most of the time it will be skill-based learning where I'm teaching you appointment setting, closing, whatever it may be. But it all starts here. If you don't get this sort of stuff sorted out first, then it all becomes sort of irrelevant. So the skills are sort of that 10% where you do need them, obviously, to make money, but what sort of separates, why do only 1% of the people in the world live, that dream life they envision for themselves? And it's a little stuff here, and it's sort of this is where you all start. So the first thing really when it comes to this sort of stuff is taking accountability. So a lot of people, all you guys more than likely aren't in a position ideally that you want. And believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, obviously I know a couple of you guys are a bit younger, 16, 17. But there's also other people who have been who are 20, 21, 22. Every decision that you've made has led you to the position you're in now. And if it's not one that you like, a lot of people aren't willing to face that or accept that, right? So, the first thing is to take accountability. For me, I set a goal for myself at the start of this year to reach $100,000 a month, and I haven't got there. And I've sort of just been going with the motions, sort of pretty comfortable, like you are, I guess, when you're working a normal job at some stages. You're pretty comfortable, right? Because you're getting the same wage. I'm earning a lot more money than I was as a chippy. So I'm comfortable, right? So there's not that extra push. And the first thing for me, this is all these things that I'm now implementing into my life to reach that next level. I've only sort of constructed for myself over the last week. So, the same thing still applies. And the first step for me was taking accountability for the position I was in. I set goals for myself and I haven't got there yet. We've still got 3 months left in the year. So, for me being stuck at, say, $30,000 a month, wanting $100,000 a month is the same thing as you guys, being stuck or trying to make your first bit of money to, you know, getting your first win, making your first bit of money. So, you know, the same message still applies. And the first thing is, you know, taking accountability for that position that you're in and realizing that. You know, the images I've got here, for you to go from, you know, a version of yourself that you don't want to be for the rest of your life, you've got to be able to overcome this wall that's, you know, leading to the money that you want to make. So that's sort of the first step is, you know, taking accountability and just realize, like, just even something like I used to say to myself back then is like, it's sort of a weird mindset, but it was like I almost bullied myself. I'm like, this is your fault. You're in this position because you didn't do stuff sooner. So that's sort of the first stage, and it's like being pretty harsh on yourself. And a lot of people have different things that light a fire inside them. But for me, when I was stripping it back to, you know, how I reached the stage I'm at now to this next stage I need to go to, this is the sort of stuff that's going through my mind. So where I've been going wrong, where I've been going, you know, things that have been holding me back and how I kept myself stuck over, I'd say the last 2, 3, 4 months is a number of things. And this is also something like, you know, I'd identify if I were you guys as well. Like, you can sit back, this session is obviously recorded, you can sit back after this and sort of nut out these things. Because obviously the first thing is being accountable and realizing that, you know, there's a reason you're in the position you're in. But then you've got to actually identify the problems that have kept you stuck, or else, you know, you can realize that, yes, I'm in a certain position and it's my fault. But if you don't know, like, the things that are actually holding you back from that version of yourself ultimately you want to get to, then you're still going to be like stuck in that same cycle, right? So this is something, you know, I sort of sat down with myself like a week ago, and, you know, the things that were like holding me back from that version of myself that I do want to get to was too much travel. Obviously, probably for a lot of you guys, you know, you're wanting to get into this to travel, to have freedom, to do what you want. And I'm not saying you can't go and do that, but at certain times, like when you're doing too much of it, it is a big distraction, travel, because you're obviously visiting new countries and you want to go see stuff, and you could be doing so much more. You could be so much more proactive. So this was like the first thing that I set out for myself is like, you know, I am doing too much of it. It's good, you know, it's great. That's why you've got to obviously enjoy yourself and the work that you put in. But for me, it's been like the last 4 or 5 months I've been moving Airbnbs, moving places, you know, travel days when I'm getting flights that are 8 hours, that just writes the whole day off. So that was sort of the first thing is like, you know, even if it's what I've sort of came to the conclusion with is like, you know, even if you can still travel, for me, it's like, but stay in like one spot rather than having to pack up all your stuff every couple of weeks, move to a new Airbnb. That's like written a day off. So just like coming up with better strategies around it. Then with that, like with the travel, you know, there's not a lot of routine when you're moving time zones, you're moving places and things like that. So that's a really big thing for me when I'm at my highest, like when I'm working my best at my highest form. I'm always in a good routine, and I'm always getting up early and getting all this hard stuff done early and getting what I need to get done early in the day, and that makes it hard with travel. Obviously, when you're out traveling, you're with your mates and things like that. I'm a normal Australian bloke, right? I love drinking. I always have. And when I was in your guys' shoes, first getting started, that was actually something I sacrificed, was going out on the weekends and just working. And that's something, looking back on how I went from like 0 to 10K a month, that was probably one of the biggest things. So like traveling, drinking, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, I'm not doing what I need to do that the version of myself making 100K a month would be doing. Then off the back of drinking, is skipping the gym, letting my feelings win. Oh, I don't want to wake up early. Oh, I drank last night. I don't want to go to the gym. I can go tomorrow. So just little things like that. And then talking, and that this all leads back to, you know, I've been saying all my stories, I've been saying to my family, you know, I'm going to be making 100K a month because I know I will. But I'm sort of falling back into the same trap that a lot of people do. They say they're going to do these things, but they still live like the old version of themselves. So you guys have got to come to realize, like, it can be daunting at times to realize that, you know, there is going to be sacrifices you might have to make, and along the way to reach that new version of yourself. But ultimately, you know, the version of yourself, and it comes back to taking that accountability, who's not in a position you want, there's going to be things that need to change. So for me to go to that next level, for you guys to, you know, get started and make your first bit of money, this all sort of aligns and makes sense. So, you know, I wanted 100K, but for the last year, I've been living like the guy who was capped at 30, who's, doing enough. It's not like I just go disappearing from my business for a week or two at a time. I'm working every day. I'm doing sort of the bare minimum that keeps the business going, but I'm not doing the extra things that, that version of yourself making 100K or, for you guys 10K would be doing, if that makes sense. Now, once I realized these things, so obviously, taking accountability, realizing the things, where I was going wrong, you then need to build a vision for yourself. Now, obviously, this is something I am absolutely massive on. And if you don't understand where you're going, or you don't have a picture painted out in your head of where you want to be in a certain time frame, you're going to end up nowhere. If you can imagine yourself getting in a car and just driving with no end destination, you're going to end up in the middle of nowhere, which is something, I've added into the modules, that sort of saying, but it doesn't make sense, right? So the next thing for me was to sit down and figure out my vision, paint a picture so vividly that, I know what clothes I'm wearing that day. For me, the biggest ones at the minute are, a big one is family, and getting to, obviously I'm living a life that I really wanted to live, but at the end of the day, my family aren't able to come along with me on those trips and stuff like that. Maybe they could every now and then, but the end goal for me is like to be able to retire them. So, painting a picture of, what I'm going to be wearing when I'm going to the bank to pay off their mortgage, the reaction my mom's going to have when, I say you don't have to work anymore and things like that. So painting it really vividly. And for me, when I was in your guys' shoes, this was like such a big thing. When this was such a big thing that I'd do every single day. And I didn't even realize that it was such an important part in my journey. But when I was like working every day on a job site, like every single day since I got started, I just had this image of me quitting my job, of like what I'd be doing, what I'd be saying once I handed my 2 weeks in from like day one. And I didn't even realize like I was painting a vision for myself, or that it was such a big part of, almost manifesting it to become a reality. But I knew exactly what I was going to say when I was going to quit my job. I knew exactly what I was going to write out on that resignation. And I knew exactly for the first few weeks after quitting my job that I'd be in Bali. Specifically, I really wanted to go to Bali. When I was first getting started, that was like a big thing, was just to be able to live in Bali. I'd traveled to Bali a lot as a tradie, and I really loved it there. Loved the lifestyle there, loved the weather, loved the people. And it was just this obsessive and reoccurring vision that I had in my mind of me quitting my job, handing my 2 weeks in and going over to Bali. And within 3 or 4 months, I literally I lived out that vision, which was crazy. And I remember like the first few days in Bali, I was just sort of pinching myself. I'm like this is weird as fuck. But this is like why I'm so big on it, and why I sort of had to strip it back to, what actually changed me, like what actually changed the version of myself back then to being in a position to leave my job, to now where I want to go from, living a great life for myself, earning, decent, like good money, right? But what's stopping me from getting to that next version of myself? And I realized over the last 12 months, and this is something you guys will realize along your journeys as well, is like, obviously you have that first goal there, you have that first vision there, where for all of you, it's like leaving your job, maybe you want to travel, maybe you want to start giving back to your parents, and you'll reach that vision, and you reach a really strange part of your journey where you've reached your goals, and you're sort of living this dream life that you painted for yourself. It's great, but you sort of don't have that next stage of the journey isn't there. Now, I don't want to get too far into that, because obviously we're just worried about getting to that those first goals that you got yourself, and that first vision that you've painted for yourself. But for me, stripping it back, and for you guys just starting this, is such an important part. And if you don't know where you're going, for me, I didn't know where I was going for the last 12 months. That's why I've stayed stagnant. I think, and even for the start of this year, for the first 3 or 4 months of this year, I wasn't traveling. I was really pushing myself, and I started actually scaling. I reached 45K a month from March to April, and then I sort of took my foot off the gas. But it was once again proof of concept of I had this strong vision. I went from 30 to 45K in the space of a month, and then I started traveling, and then I've just been stagnant back at those numbers again. So it's just this is why I want to reiterate the importance of your vision and your goals. And it's something you really need to sit in. And if you're hungry enough and you have it painted clear enough, it's not even something you need to practice. Because when I was first starting, it was just a constant thought in my head. I'm going to quit my job. I know what I'm going to say. It's just I just had to do it, and that's all I could think about. And then off the back of that, because you know exactly where you're going, what you're trying to achieve, every single day I was taking little steps, little steps towards, and then that compounds over a 3, 4, 5, 6 month time frame. When you take, there's a few boys here, I know Zach and Cade are actually inside ABC, the same guys, the same mentors who trained me up. And the biggest thing is just like being 1% better every day. How can I get 1% better every day? Even if it's like you're having a bad day, there's little failures and things like that. Something I've spoke to Kate a lot about is like, he's been going hard every single day. He, at the beginning of his journey, he wasn't seeing the result. He was comparing himself to others, wasn't seeing the results that other people were seeing right at the beginning. But I jumped on a call with Cade like a few months prior to that where he had no idea even what appointment setting is or anything like that. So, when you look back on like where you were and just focusing on like getting that 1% better every day, it is such a crucial part. So, as I've written here, the 100K month vision for myself is, freedom, security, family looked after, but the money will only come after you become the guy who deserves it. So for you guys to reach 10K a month, it might, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, for you to get to that point, you have to be that guy who is already earning it. You have to be the 10K a month guy for 3 months, for 1 month, for 2 months, however long it takes. You have to become that version who is already making $10,000 a month before you get there. Because if you never, start acting, start living like that person, you will never get there. You have to live like the 5K, the 10K, the 100K version of yourself before the 5K, the 10K, or the 100K arrives, or else it doesn't make sense. And these are just little things that, regular, average, ordinary people don't even know exist or don't even think about. And it's something I really want to reiterate before, the next few weeks, for the next 6 months, when we're, doing different masterclasses on skills and, appointment setting, whatever it may be. But if this stuff isn't set out, then, you still never reach, regardless of the skills, how well I can teach the skills to you guys, you would still never reach that version of yourself that you're trying to chase. So that was sort of the next thing for me, was my vision, my goals, and these are now little things. So, once I painted the vision and the goals, this is sort of step by step for you guys as well. So, when I'm going in this order for a reason. The first thing was accountability. Then it was, actually realizing the things in my life that was holding me back, painting a vision, goals. What am I actually changing now to start and to become that version of myself making 100K a month, right? So the first thing, and this is once again, I was sitting down about a week ago writing all these things out and thinking about and envisioning myself at 100K a month, the things that I would be doing. And discipline is a big thing. You cannot rely on motivation. And, even stripping it back to when I was in your guys' shoes, what were the things that I was doing that actually got me there? So these are the sort of the steps I'm taking. This is I really want to push heavily on you guys to do this stuff as well. And the first thing is like just doing the things every single day, every single week that I hate. And for me, those things are things like doing legs at the gym, waking up early. I don't need to wake up early. I could wake up at 7 a.m. I could wake up at 8 p.m. and still get the same work done, but I hate waking up early. And you might be wondering, well, why do the things you hate? Because it builds so much more conviction in yourself, so much more discipline. And that's sort of the first thing I want to focus on. So whatever it is for you, might not be doing legs for you, but figure those things out, those things that in the back of your head that, you're sort of just letting go by. You sort of just, it doesn't matter too much. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do it. Start doing those things in your day-to-day life that you hate every day. And I promise, after you do them long enough, it builds so much conviction and you're building so much discipline in yourself, which is one of the most important parts. Now, the next part I want you guys to focus on, I think everyone here seem pretty fit, seem pretty healthy, but your income will never exceed your personal development. So the person that you're becoming, what you're doing in the gym, what you're eating, how strict you are on your diet, how strict you are on doing the things that probably aren't going to get you to the goal. So, once again, for me, stripping this back last week, I wasn't going to the gym every day. I was skipping days, I was traveling, I was drinking, I wasn't doing, the things that the 100K version of me would be doing. So once again, stripping that back, doing the things I hate, so doing legs at the gym, but now it's, I want to get into the best shape of my life. I want to, be strict with my diet and really push myself physically, because off the back of that will come the money. So all this like little stuff that you do, off the back of this, the money is a byproduct. So, when I was back in your guys' shoes, when I was first getting started, I just got dumped by a girlfriend of 3 years. I hadn't gone to the gym for like 2 years, so I was like a little skinny cunt, a little scrawny cunt. And the first thing I did, like the day after, like stereotypical heartbreak, but I got back in the gym. I was pushing myself every day in the gym, whether it was to prove a point, or whatever it was. But that was sort of the first thing I did back then, and that's like the first thing that I'm putting back into my life now, is like strict training, pushing myself like harder than I ever have before. And once again, that builds so much like conviction in yourself to go hard with what you're learning, to show up every day for yourself. Show up every day at the gym. You'll show up every day for yourself with this stuff as well. The next thing for me was eliminating short-term gratification, sort of fixing my dopamine receptors. So, I'm not sure how many of you guys know what short-term gratification means, but it's basically like, those short-term fixes that you get, whether it's going out and drinking, you might have fun for 6 hours, but you're fucked for 1 to 2 days after that. But you think, like, you just keep doing it. You keep doing it because it's going to be fun for those 6 hours. So eliminating those things in my life. And once again, this comes back to the gym and why I think gym and, not just gym, but physical activity is such a big thing. Because when you're trying to get in shape, it's not going to happen overnight, right? To get in good shape, it's probably going to be 6 months of consistency. And that's the opposite of short-term gratification, which is long-term gratification. And that's what I want you guys to start focusing on as well. So whether it's, doom scrolling before bed, if you put your phone away for an hour before you go to bed, that's a big thing. If you sacrifice drinking for the next 6 months, you're fixing your dopamine receptors as well. And when you start doing this in other areas of your life, then you start, becoming okay with delayed gratification. And delayed gratification, by the end of it, is a better feeling than any form of dopamine that you can get. But so many people are just, everyone's dopamine junkies. So it's like, focus on the gym, focus on, getting in shape over time. And with this, you're not going to get rich quick overnight. So I've seen so many people over the last year and a half come in, they'll go hard as fuck for 2 weeks. Oh, I'm not a millionaire yet. This is bullshit. It's never going to work out, because their dopamine receptors are fucked. So start focusing on just getting 1% better every day. And once again, as a byproduct of that, it compounds over time. After 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it just you won't even realize how much you're progressing. And then when you look back, you guys will look back to this call, or to a rough time when you joined the school community, and you'll be like, fuck, like I've grown so much. I didn't even realize, because I was just getting a little bit better every day. But I've changed so much as a person, and then off the back of that comes the money. Now, the next thing for me is my routine and tracking. So I've got a little screenshot here of, this is an app called Google Calendar. Now, obviously, everyone's routine is different. Obviously when you're working, you obviously can't have it like this, where, pretty much your whole morning's working, like on this sort of stuff, because you're at work, right? So obviously make it suit, have it to suit you. But this is, once again, just a little thing that, when I was traveling, when I was bouncing around, I wasn't doing. My routine was all over the place. I'd wake up at 8 a.m., I'd wake up at 10 a.m. And I'd just be all over the place. When you do this, and you have this, like, you're strict about it, you follow this every single day, a set routine that you follow every single day. Once again, off the back of that, you're tracking your business. So a big thing with like sales is like tracking the numbers, which is obviously a little bit down the line for you, so I won't really get into it. But a big thing for me, sort of running my own business, is like understanding numbers and tracking. So, every day when I'm tracking this, I'm not just tracking this, I'm tracking what I'm lifting in the gym. And because I'm doing that in one area of my life, once again, I will be doing that in other areas of my life. So set a routine for yourself, one that suits you. And if you see here, from like 4 a.m, I'm getting up, I'm getting up, first hour I'm working, then I go for a walk for an hour just to get the blood flowing, then I'm doing work, breakfast, gym, work. Like I'm working all day. And yeah, that's just the reality of it. Like there's no time, you get to a point where there's no time to like do any of the bullshit that you would be doing that's actually holding you back. So these, aren't little life hacks or anything like that. What you have to realize is like, these are pretty much forcing yourself into the version that deserves 100K or deserves 10K a month. You're forcing yourself there. And I remember when I first joined the academy, when I was first getting started, and even talking to, the guys that really helped me out at the beginning for the first 2 or 3 months, they couldn't believe the position that I'd got into like a year later. But the biggest thing they said about me was like this brute consistency, this brute force. I'm no one special. I'm a I'm a dumb cunt. I was so shit at school, but it was just this brute force. Like I just forced myself to the money goal that I was after. And that's, stripping it back, that's exactly what I'm going to do again. Hard work will always beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. That is something that, for a lot of us here, you're probably all tradies. I've seen so many talented sales guys come in and out, and, the guys that work hard, the guys that are dumb, the guys that just brute force their way to the goal are the guys that always do better. So why this all applies to you is you guys need to start becoming your next version as well. So this is how I'm becoming my next version. Obviously, it's a little bit far in advance, reaching 100K, but it really is a similar message, and this still does apply to you. Obviously, it might not be tracking as heavily as this, and your days might not look like this, but it still applies for you. If you're at 0, your next version isn't 100K. It's just someone who isn't broke, isn't in a position that they hate. So the version of you that is making, say, 10K a month, right? Right now, picture yourself, the version of yourself making 10K a month is that person waking up when they said they would, not clicking snooze on the alarm, gets out and moves every day, is pushing themselves physically, does one uncomfortable thing daily. So one thing that most people go, nah, no one likes being uncomfortable, right? It's human nature to chase comfortability. When you're driving a car, you're always trying to drive safely. You don't want to do anything uncomfortable. So, off the back of embracing uncomfortability is where the growth is. So every day is that version of yourself making 10K a month, doing something uncomfortable that makes them feel uncomfortable. Is that version of yourself, not making excuses. Oh, I only slept 4 hours last night. I deserve to have a day off. Is he making excuses? Oh, this happened, I'm gonna have a day off. And these are all things that sort of apply to you. Pushing limits in all aspects. So once again, gym, training, all assets of your life. And is the person making, say, 10K a month scared to invest into yourself? Are you putting money back into yourself to upgrade your skills and things like that? So it really is, the main focus here, even for me, is like becoming that person right now. And that's something, you obviously can't, for you guys say to go from right now to the version of yourself making 10K a month, it's such a big gap, right? It's so far away, but as long as you're gradually getting closer to that person, it's not just going to happen overnight, but if you're actively every day trying to be that person, one day you become that person and then the money flows as a byproduct. So right now, all these things I'm not going to be able to do overnight, but with consistency and doing them every single day, a funny thing will happen is, you reach that person and then the money comes as a byproduct of that. If you can't become the person who deserves 1K, 10K, you'll never touch the 30 or 40K. So before we sort of wrap up, there's a few more here. So everyone listens to their feelings, right? We all have feelings. We're all very emotional people. That's the way humans are. But you've got to set standards for yourself, and you've got to be strict on those standards, and you've always got to push your feelings to the side. Feelings won't build your future. When you get home from a long day work and you're like, oh, fuck this, I can't be bothered, I'm exhausted, my life's shit, why do I get paid so shit, I'm working so hard. That doesn't build your future, complaining and letting your feelings take control. But the standards that you set yourself every day is what builds your future. Your future self doesn't care about feelings, only standards. I don't feel like waking up at 4 a.m. When my alarm's been going off for the last week at 4 a.m., I'll lay there, I'll be like, fuck, I could so easily just go back, because I don't have to go to work. I don't have to do anything. I could so easily go back to bed when I don't feel like getting in front of the camera and filming, because it's not something I want to do every day, is put myself out there. I'm not as bright and bubbly every day. It's not something you always want to do. But my standard right now is that picture I painted for myself at $100,000 a month. Would he be doing these things? That is a standard. You know, I don't feel like waking up at 4 a.m. I don't feel like getting in front of the camera every day. But the standards I set myself say that that's something I'm going to do. So I'm going to do it. You won't feel like starting at $0. You won't feel like, you know, putting in 3 or 4 months of work potentially for no money, because no one likes, you know, putting in work for nothing. But would the future version of yourself be thanking you for doing that later on? You need to understand but like for all this to all make sense, once again, you need to understand what the future you looks like. You need to act like you need to act like the person you're trying to become, not the person that you are now. So as we've got here, like, give me a sec. So once again, tying like all of it together, the next thing, I sort of had it there with my routine, but the next thing is like tracking your discipline. You need proof that you're becoming that person. You can't say all these things, write this vision out for yourself, these goals, you know, sort of have a rough idea on how to get to this version of yourself. But you need proof you're becoming that person for yourself. So for me, you know, it's tracking gym, what time I'm waking up every day, what hours I'm going to work, my content, things like that. For you guys, you know, I track just 3 basic things day to day. What time you're waking up, your gym, and the daily hard habit that you're doing, or the one thing that you're doing that makes you feel uncomfortable. A funny thing will happen. Your income will start to follow that as well. And it will start to, you know, reflect the person that you're becoming. So tracking is how you prove you're living like your next version. Because once again, like, you can have a rough idea that, yeah, I'm tracking, I'm going to the gym every day. I think I'm pushing myself every day. But if you don't have that track day by day, then there's no real proof or numbers or anything behind it. So like, as I've got here, this is like, you know, a split that I've got for myself at the gym. You guys don't need to look at the fucking exercise and stuff I'm doing, but it's just like, you know, this is sort of what I've set out for myself and something that I'm tracking every day. So, you know, I'll do a heavy session for chest, then I'll do one in rep range, endurance, metabolic, and that's just something that I wasn't doing. You know, I was just rocking up to the gym. You know, I want to get in good shape. I want to, you know, build a good body, but I'm just going to go every few days. But now I've got this strict schedule for myself, and this proves, you know, if I follow this is proof for myself that I am becoming that person. And once again, these are like, obviously, these are setting numbers inside my business. But once again, you know, showing that every day I'm looking at these numbers, you know, say, you know, it's sort of hard to talk about this because it's a bit further down the line. But say, you know, I make, you know, there's $300,000 worth of calls taken there. Say 20% of those close. That's, you know, whatever that is. That's like, say, $50,000 for the month. All right, so if I can, because I've got these numbers here, all right, so how do I double these numbers? You know, is it more content? Is it better salespeople? Things like that. So this is proof that I'm actually getting towards the end goal. I got the numbers in front of me. Same with the gym. You know, I'm trying to reach this physique and it's not all over the place, but now I've got the numbers there. I've got what I'm going to do every day. And this is proof that I'm becoming that person. And then you've got to prove you're becoming that person. So what I want you guys to do after this session is do like a 7-day future self challenge. I really want you guys over the next week, over the next few days, to really focus on this session. Go back through this masterclass, sort of try and we'll get to questions as well if you know I've gone too fast or you've got any questions or anything like that. But I really want you guys to strip it all back. You know, even if you stop going through the modules for a few days, I know inside the community, like the first, I push very heavily in the first few modules on mindset, but I did just want to reiterate all this and sort of reflect it back to myself as well, what I'm actually doing to reach that next level. And I really want you guys to nut this out, build a strong vision for yourself, understand, you know, what the version of yourself right now is doing, what's led you to that point, and how you're going to try and actively become that new person, that new version of yourself that you envision. Write 3 things your future self would never skip. Whether it's gym, whatever it may be. Do them first every day for 7 days, and then track them. Show me that you're actually tracking. Show me proof that you're becoming that new person, and then prove you're becoming that person by actually doing it. So that's pretty much the session here. But yeah, it's such a big thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize too, that by just doing the same things that have led you to the position that you're in now, it's never gonna like change anything. Or else everyone would be able to change. It's why so many people say suck, because they don't even know where they're going, or or what the version of themselves making a certain amount of money will be doing. I was living for 3 or 4 months, even a year, like the 30K a month Coop. I was doing the bare minimum, saying I wanted 100K, and that's why I was stuck. Now I'm forcing myself into the 100K version. If you're at 0, the same thing sort of applies. You've got to live like, the 1K version, the 5K version, the 10K version before you ever see it. And it's a funny thing, and it's, the law of attraction and things like that. But the things you think about in your mind are the things that you'll become. So if you're sort of having negative thoughts every day, that's gonna, pour out into your life. Whereas if you can just obsess, like, or if all you can think about is, the sort of success that you guys are trying to chase, then, your life and things like that will start to reflect all that. But yeah, we'll wrap up there. I know for a lot of you, or for, even, when I go to post this in the community, on school, a lot of people think you can skip this part and it's not important, but everyone reaches out to me and stuff like that. What's the secret sauce? How do you do what you do? And it's just like mindset, being so brutally consistent with this sort of stuff. And obviously I've sort of learned a lot along the way. But yeah, have you got any questions, anything like that? Any feedback, before we wrap up? And also, does this sort of time suit every week?
Yeah, 100%. I think this time's gangster. This time's perfect for me. I
Yep.
mean, I train a lot, and 4's probably perfect. Just finished work, and
Yep.
yes, about 30, 40 minutes is perfect.
Perfect, bro.
Uh,
Perfect. And
yeah,
yeah, probably
but no,
before, like, maybe a day or two before, I can sort of put a poll into school as well for like what you guys want me to cover. And when you guys start role playing as well, we can start doing like live role play reviews and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%. That'd be wicked.
yeah,
That'd be awesome.
that's good to hear. But yeah, any
Yeah.
questions? It's obviously, there's probably like not a lot of questions about the mindset sort of stuff. It's just sort of stuff you have to soak.
Yeah, not too many. I like what you're doing. I think the mindset's probably the biggest thing, like you say, in my opinion. Mindset's fucking
Yep,
where the wealth comes.
yep,
Without the mindset, you don't get the wealth, in my
yep,
opinion. I think it's great. I think it's especially how much time you put into it as well. It makes you want to it gives you a bit of motivation as well,
yep,
to keep going in the community, which is also good. But
100%.
like you say, consistency and discipline's key.
Yep, 100%, bro. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Alrighty.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, I got a few. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I got a few questions here. Basically what Jai said, like the amount of time you put into this, like most of us, I'm sure we appreciate it
yeah,
because
100%.
like it's pretty fucking helpful, bro.
yeah,
But from just doing the modules and stuff, like I'm up to the remote closing module. I'm just going through that now, but like I've got written a few questions down about like what I want to ask.
yep,
It's like I've got like tons, but I select out like 5 ones that
yep,
I was just like, oh, I think it would help me, but also help the rest of the people on
yep.
this call.
Of course, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
So the first one was like, with appointment setting, like, would it be more significant becoming certified? And if so, like, how do I become certified?
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, it definitely helps. Like, especially like when you've got no experience or anything like that, to say you've gone through some sort of training. Now, how to go about that is, um, or the way, like the other ways, like Cade, who's inside the academy, like ABC, they sort of run a program where you go similar to like what we've got. You go through the modules, but then you start role playing and things like that. There's actually a test that you've got to pass. So if that's like potentially something you would be interested in, you can just like reach out to me personally. I can run you through that. But it's not like you have to. It obviously helps a lot, and it'll do you a lot of a good in the future as well, just to actually sort of have that behind you. But it's not like it's not like if you're not certified or anything like that, then it's impossible. But yeah, it will help. Yeah, as Zach said, it will help you a lot trying to get it wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll probably hit you up about
Yeah,
that. I feel like it'd be really good, like because if I apply somewhere or if I go on Seek or whatever, hit him
yeah,
up, it would definitely be like, oh, this guy's got certified as
yeah,
opposed to this other guy that isn't, you know,
100%.
simple stuff like that. Another question I've got, I'll probably just do three, just because I don't want to
Yeah.
waste anyone's time. Um,
Nah, do five, do five,
do five.
do
All
five.
right,
Go ahead, do five, do five.
easy.
We're all broke.
Um,
Cooper's the only one losing money.
um, is there a way that like we can access like coaching or mentoring like one on one with you or people similar like you?
Yeah. So yeah, it's sort of the same thing, bro. Like obviously there's lots of different people out there. Um, the only ones who I recommend, there's a few boys in this call who are part of the academy, is like the people who got me here, right? Because it doesn't make sense for me to recommend anyone else. Um, so yeah, that's something like we can definitely talk about with like the one-on-one stuff here. Obviously, yeah, I am pretty busy. Like I'm happy to do these calls and stuff like that, and that's why it's like, especially at the beginning for like you boys as well, is like because there's not many people on this call. If you guys start doing role plays and that, you can sort of have that one-on-one help from me.
Yeah,
We can go about it that way. But yeah, like just message me about that sort of stuff, bro.
I got you. Too
'Cause it's
easy.
not, it's not like just like a, obviously I got like fucking 30,000 followers. It's not just like, everyone gets a crack. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, I know what you
obviously
mean.
you boys are serious. So I'm sure it'd be all good, but yeah.
Too easy. Third one is like, is there any stuff you recommend like investing in ourselves? Like before we take any steps further, do you like recommend that like what would you recommend we invest in ourselves?
Yeah, so yeah, when giving advice and getting those sort of questions for me, man, it's just going back to my experience. So,
Yeah,
obviously with this school community and stuff like that, obviously it's free, and I've put a lot of time and effort. But like as you boys said before, like at the end of the day, I'm only like 12, 18 months into my journey as well. So I'm still learning a lot. Like I'm
Yeah,
obviously
100%.
still a lot I need to learn. So obviously, the reason this is free is because I don't feel right charging it, because I've learned from people who have made millions and millions of dollars, right? So I've still got a long way to go myself. So when it really is up to everyone, and sort of depends on like the situation that you're in. But I'm not gonna lie, for me to get into the position I'm in, I did invest in myself. I don't think there's anything better you could invest into than like yourself and skills and knowledge, because it's something you're never going to lose. You can dump money into different get rich quick stuff, and it's not something you're going to make long term. Like say everything I'm doing now went tits up, I've still got those skills behind me, so I'd always be able to build myself back up. So it's like it's an evergreen thing. I'm always going to be able to start new businesses, even if it was like in construction, right? I know how to sell, I know how to get clients, I know how to market. So I don't, but like answering that question in short, bro, like I don't think there's anything better to invest in than yourself and your skill sets,
yeah,
because whether you the only way you don't see, if you get training from the right people, the only way you don't see ROI, like a return on interest, is if you don't put the work in.
yeah. Fair enough.
You know what I mean? So, there's
Yeah,
people
gotcha.
who, there's even people who I've helped out, and they've gone on and invested in themselves. They'll join the academy, or they'll join and get mentored. And then after 2 weeks, you'd never see them again. And they've just wasted money. So at the end of the day, it's sort of a hard one to talk on, because it's like, if you're going to put the work in consistently, and even you boys, being here now and obviously being the most active in the group, I'm pretty confident you would put the work in. But once again, nothing's guaranteed, and it all comes down to you. But like, if you build these mindsets out, then there's no reason why. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend to invest in yourself.
Yeah. So what you reckon? Just get the ABC Academy going.
If that's the path you want to go down, bro. Yeah.
Too easy. I'll make these short and quick. So yeah. Um, the fourth one was like, should I be like when I become a setter? Should I become a setter and a closer at the same time before applying? Like, does that look better?
Um, I would probably like if you're wanting to obviously you want to make money like as quick as possible, right? Like I would recommend focusing on setting, getting a setting role, and then
Yeah,
closing, like learning closing on the side of that. Because usually, obviously, in a business, if you're a setter, obviously on the other side of that appointment that you set, there's closers. So usually, 9 times out of 10, once you show that you've got the skills behind you with setting, say you're learning closing off the back of that, there's room for growth inside that person's business, whatever business you're working for. So you actually don't have to go out and find a closing role. 9 times out of 10, you actually, get promoted to a closing role. Um, it's different for everyone. Like, you can if you wanted just to learn setting to get that behind you, but yet you just wanted to be a closer, you didn't want to set, then you can sort of learn both, and then just become
yeah,
a closer straight away. But like I always say, like setting will be like the lowest barrier to entry to start making your first bit of money. But like the end goal should always be closing. You obviously got to make more money as a closer, but not only that, like the learning how to close will like pretty much change all aspects of your life, not just, closing, right? You learn communication, you learn how to speak to people, you learn how to sell with conviction, with your voice. And it's not just like how to sell this or how to sell that. You learn how like when you learn how to sell, say a one product or service, you know how to sell yourself to businesses, you know how to sell yourself to that girl, you know how to communicate like as a proper skill. So like it's not just like something where it's going to make you a lot of money. It will, but it's also going to help you in all aspects of life.
yeah. That's fair enough. That's um,
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
yeah.
I got nothing to say.
The last one is, can we have access to like any successful appointment setting? Like if they were going to ask the person on Instagram, like, hey, I want to be a setter and this and that, or like any um, what's the one?
Like a business.
Yeah, if they're messaging a business like, hey, this is what I want to do for you. This is how much money I'm gonna make. Like, is there any examples of that?
Of of what? Sorry, wait. Can you reword that? Like someone
So
who's
like,
actually landed a setting role.
landed a role.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. I know. I'm not sure if Jamie's here, but Jamie's landed a couple roles. I'm pretty sure.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I can even show you like the first role I landed. I can sort of bury into my messages and sort of show you how I went about that. I don't have the interview that I went on recorded or anything like that, but yeah, my first role was with a day trading company when I was first getting started out. And the way I found that role was through Facebook, and I just reached out to him, ended up getting on an interview. So I can is that sort of what you mean? Like how they
yeah,
actually
that's what I meant.
yeah landing the role. I know Jamie's first role, he was actually an opportunity inside ABC that was posted. And then I put it into I've got like a group chat with all the people I'm helping in ABC. I put that into the group chat. Jamie was only like 3 weeks in, and he got on the interview, and there was like 20 other people on the interview with him. He was expecting a one-on-one interview with like a business owner. There's like 20 people there, all going for this setting role. They sort of just, I think they had to go like around and just like introduce themselves, say a bit about themselves. I'm not 100% sure, but something like that for like, 30 seconds or whatever. And then after that, they basically said, "Oh, have you got any more questions or anything like that?" And Jamie just no one would ask, like no one went to ask any questions or try and provide any value to this guy, this business owner. And then Jamie just stuck his hand up, and that was pretty much like all it took. So it's just like little things like that. Like when you're applying for sales roles, once again, you're selling yourself to this business. So sales is just problem and solution thinking. So this business, if they're looking for setters, they're facing a problem in their business. So how can you provide enough value to be the solution to the problem they're facing in the business? When you're setting, there's obviously like a problem that a prospect is facing, whether it's being overweight, that's the problem they're facing. The solution is obviously, a potential fitness program that you're setting for. But the same thing applies to the business owner. This is like sales is everywhere. There's a problem that
Yeah,
this business owner is facing. He's got a lack of setters there to set appointments. So how can you actually be the solution. You're not there, you've probably gone through the modules. You're not there to go, please give me a role. You've got to be there like as a sales guy because that's the role you're applying for. But it's like this guy's facing a problem in his business. How can I show us the solution? And that's exactly what Jamie did.
Yeah. Fuck. Cheers for the
Confidence
answers.
is key. Confidence is key.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Confidence is key.
Exactly. Sell
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, sell yourself. Sell
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
with confidence.
But
Yeah,
as I
definitely.
said earlier, it's like it's not just like you guys are here learning how to be a remote closer. You guys are learning like one of like the best skill that you can learn, which is
yeah.
sales.
Plus,
It's
yeah,
it's got to
Yeah.
be something like it doesn't matter what the fuck you do in 10 years time, in 20 years time. If you can sell yourself, if you know how to sell, you will always make money. So
Yeah, it's just like anything.
yeah. And so many people come in and just want to rush through. I want to make 10K a month in the first month, but like just take 6 months to learn this skill properly, 12 months out of the next 50 years of your life. And it doesn't matter what the fuck you will do, you will make money. You'll find a way to make money if you learn how to sell.
yeah. You
Yeah,
answered all
for
my fucking
sure.
questions to a T. Cheers for
Good to hear. That's good to hear. But yeah, I hope it was sort of a value. I know, the first modules are very mindset heavy, but it is such a big thing. And also just quickly, there was a problem, or not a problem, but no, there was with like the closing rate on one of the businesses I was working with. Um, the closers were that like they had like really good skills, like a really really good skill set wise, right? Like a really good closers, but they weren't closing shit. And um, I reached out to one of my mentors trying to fix the problem, and he said, the way we fixed this problem, we went from I think the closing rate was like 12%. We went from a 12% close rate to 40% close rate within the space of like 3 weeks. What we got all the closers to do was like all the shit I just said, get up, do shit, like do the shit you hate, push yourself physically. And, when these guys was like, although they had the best sales skills behind them, they were now getting onto the calls like going, I'm that guy because it's mindset is such a big thing, and it's not just like to improve yourself and to make a certain amount of money, but it's actually going to, when you're taking calls and things like that, you're getting onto that call with conviction. Like authority is such a big thing on a closing call, and when you're pushing yourself outside of those closing calls, you're pushing yourself in all areas of life. You're then getting on that call going, I've done fucking shit that I hated today. You're like in the zone. You're like, I'm closing this deal, and you're coming up with confidence.
Yeah.
You're convicted. You're not just like going through like a framework or a script like that. Throw that out the window. Like I'd rather you guys sell with so much conviction and so much confidence compared to just like follow some script or follow some magic framework. Because if you're not there as a sales guy, as a guy who believes in yourself, believes in the product, and believes in the person that you're becoming, then it's you're still not going to make the money regardless of how good the skills are. So it's that's like a real world example of this all isn't just fluff. This is something I've experienced time and time again firsthand with the mindset stuff. Because when you're pushing yourself in all areas, you then it bleeds into all aspects of your life.
100%, 100%. It's like you put a perfect module up for belief,
Yeah.
and that explains a lot about what
Yeah,
you just said. And yeah,
100%.
it's believing in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. But now all good. Yeah, we'll wrap up. But yeah, hope it was sort of value. We can always like go back to the mindset stuff every now and then because I think it's always good to like touch base. As I said, like I've given you those first few modules. I've given this whole masterclass here today. But for a good 12 months, I was all over the shop. I didn't know where I was trying to go or where I was trying to be. Right, so
Yeah.
it's good to all like every couple of weeks, every couple of months to sort of just go back to it and just remember like this is a crucial part. You need to remember where you're going, so we can do them every now and then. Obviously I don't want to harp on it too much because you guys know what you need to do now, but yeah, it is a very important part. I just want to reiterate that for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking oath, bro. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for every
yeah.
all the
Cheers.
modules you put up and all the time you poured into it as well.
Of course,
Like
bro.
Jasper said, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
of course, bro. No worries at all. Well, yeah, keep pumping it out. Hopefully we get some more activity, some more people here in future, but yeah, I'll be active in the group and I'll put a message in at the start of next week, just seeing sort of where you guys are at and what you want more help with, and I can sort of tailor the masterclass to that.
100%. We'll also let you know in the group chat where we're at ourselves because
Yep.
don't want to go on clueless. So
Yep.
yeah,
100%.
get it. Keep trying to get everybody active as well. So
Yep. No, I appreciate it, boys.
and
All
yeah,
right,
keep going.
have a good rest of your day.
You too, brother.
Too
Thank you
easy.
very
You
much for
too.
that. Thank you
See you
very
guys.
much.
Cheers.
Have a good one, brother.
Bye.
See you,
Bye.
lads. Have a good one.
All right, guys, that is a wrap for the live masterclass for today. Just quickly before we end the video off, yeah, I just wanted to touch base on, sort of what we covered there. And, you obviously heard throughout the whole session how important I really think mindset and getting, instilling those good habits really are. So, yeah, as I said to the boys, what I want you guys to do is, really take note of that and don't just sort of sit there and listen to it and mentally masturbate over this new person you're going to become. Actually, take action on that. So, yeah, just wrapping up, if you guys do want to be a part of that school community, a part of these free live masterclasses, I'll leave a link down below. Obviously we're going to focus a lot on skills and helping you guys develop the skills. But as I said, it all really starts here, building the right mindsets and the right habits and things like that. So yeah, I'll leave a link to the school community down below. If you've got any questions or anything like that, down below as well, we can answer those for you too. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Any feedback, let me know. And yeah, join the community so we can get more people on these calls and get you guys started. Only a couple months left in 2025, so let's start 2026 on the right foot. Yeah, cheers guys.